The broadcast is live. This is Coach Arnie with the Health, Love, and Life and Adventure Show. And we are on a new time slot on the goingsolomedia.com network. And it is Wednesday afternoon, 3 o'clock here in kind of rainy Arizona. Phoenix, and who knows where it's at, where you guys are at. So we are moving over here. We're going to join a network of other cool dudes that are talking about stuff. Although what I do is we talk about everything in life in general. But because I do a lot of adventure stuff, and a lot of men are the ones out there doing crazy stuff. But, you know, in what I do as far as adventures, a lot of ladies are getting after it. And actually, I'm going after a lady who is with doing a great adventure in Canada, hopefully coming up soon. I think they're just working on all the rules and regulations with all this COVID craziness. And but she's an adventurer, and hopefully we'll get her on the show and talk about what she does as well. Sounds pretty cool to me. But there's a lot of, I run into a lot of ladies, and it's funny. And just so you know, what we're going to talk about today is the R5, and I'll explain what R5 is and what 6 crossings the Colorado River is and all that stuff. So we'll talk about all that today. I'm on one of my journeys in the canyon a couple months back. I was making note to the guy that was going with me on how many single females that I see in the bottom of the Grand Canyon. I mean, they're on an adventure, whether they're a one crossing, a double crossing, or whatever they might be doing. And it's an amazing thing to watch them. I mean, so there you go. You don't have to be a guy to do this craziness, and so that's what we want to talk about. And that adventures are for anybody that has a dream or a desire to do something that's a little bit different. And what are you willing to do to get there? I mean, there's like 5 really cool questions you can ask yourself. You know, what do you really want? So if it's something that you really want to do, what do you really want? When do you want to do it by? I mean, you know, I wanted to do this, and I'm going to make a correction here in my title here in this bit. I wanted to do this event last year, but because of COVID and getting sick myself and not having the training time I needed, the Grand Canyon not being open when I needed it to be at the beginning, and just a lot of things kind of started to collect, and I didn't have the right mindset. So I've learned long ago, if the mind is not there, then don't push it. Don't push it. And then, so why is this a must? So if you want to climb a mountain or cross a river or an ocean or travel a river or do something crazy in your life, get a new job, get a new relationship, whatever it might be, whatever your adventure is, why is it a must for you? You got to ask yourself that question, you know, because if it's not a must, chances are you're not going to put the necessary energy behind it. And then what are you willing to do? That's the big thing. Or, you know, for me, am I willing to get up early in the morning? Am I willing to put in the kind of time and training that I need to do what I'm doing at the Grand Canyon? And if I ask myself that question, and if the answer is no on a lot of things, why am I doing it? It goes back to the, you know, why is this a must? And that's important. So you got to be willing to do certain things, and then you have to be willing not to do certain things. Now, you know, like maybe going out with friends and family on the weekends and gallivanting around, partying and things that you normally might do, you know, and then so what are you willing not to do as well? So what are you willing to do? What are you willing not to do to achieve what you're trying to achieve? So let's look at this. What is an R5? Well, an R5 is what they used to call a couple years ago a double-double at the Grand Canyon. See, the Grand Canyon is a humongous place, hundreds of miles long in length. And down at the bottom is the Colorado River, which over time has carved its way through there. And many, many years ago, probably probably back in the 60s, but became more and more popular in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and really popular over the last 20 years. People have been crossing the Grand Canyon from the north rim to the south rim, or from the south rim to the north rim. So every time they do that, obviously you've got to go across the Colorado River. And what then started happening is, like I said, people either went from the north or the south, or south to the north. And then somebody got the crazy idea to do it twice, meaning go from north to south, south to north, or vice versa. And to do that, you had to go across the river, two times. And so that became known as a double. And it became popular. Obviously, not nearly as popular as, doing a rim to rim, which is very common. Hundreds of people do that every year. And when I say hundreds, that's in its relationship to 6 million visitors to the canyon every year. So it's still a drop in a bucket, but an even tinier percentage would do a double, going across twice. And so that became very popular here, especially for what's known as trail runners. And trail runners started doing that, like I said, 20-some years ago. And it became an epic trail run. And it's actually rated one of the tougher ones on the planet, and because of the danger of the trails. And it's not so much people do die there, but it's mostly because people are doing dumb things, standing on the edge, taking a picture, maybe going when it's too icy on the north rim, but mainly on Bright Angel. And it's just goofy stuff. But you're still talking about a sheer cliff on all the trails. It's a sheer cliff. When I just recently went down there 2 weeks ago, and man, oh man, in what's called the box, the section from Phantom Ranch to the base of the North Rim, even though you are climbing, they call that the box. And it was a mess. Rock slides everywhere because we had a lot of rain a couple weeks ago. And think about it now. This is what's unique here. Here's the top of the Grand Canyon, right? Here's the top. Here's the bottom. Now, if it's raining up here, which way does water flow? Well, water flows in the area of least resistance. So unless there's a pump there, it's going down. It's going down through the rocks. It's going to find its way through the rocks, through the least resistance. And in doing so, it could loosen up rocks, right? Think about it. You could do a science experiment on this, but it comes down through the rocks, and then it finds a space, whether it's through the side or it'll go as low as it can go into the wherever. Well, this water caused all kind of rocks to fall from the side of the cliffs all over the box of the canyon. It was, in certain areas, you could barely get by on the trail. And you couldn't even tell it was a trail. It had been so washed out. So these are things to worry about for runners. Hikers, not so much, because they're going at a much slower pace and they're not looking at time and all that stuff like that. So I would consider myself more of a fast packer, but I'm not camping, because most people, when they hear about what I'm doing, or what a lot of people are doing, a rim to rim or a rim to rim to rim, they think you're camping down there, because that's what they do. And that's what most people do that go down there. They camp. There's some beautiful campgrounds there. There's Indian Gardens off of Bright Angel Trail. There's Bright Angel Campground down at Phantom Ranch. If you're lucky, you can get a gig you can get a place at Phantom Ranch. If you're lucky, it takes the lottery sometimes to win that, as with Bright Angel Campground. And then there's a place called Cottonwood on the North Rim. And then you can also camp at the North Rim if you're lucky enough there, or stay in the lodge there as well. So these things usually become a 2, 3, 4 day event. I mean, a lot of people will go to the North Rim, maybe camp, go down to Cottonwood, camp, Phantom Ranch, camp, Indian Gardens, camp, and then come out. So it's a 3 or 4 a day. And that's a big day. It's a big week for them. It's a lot of work, a lot of walking, especially for people that haven't done a lot. So the runners bypassed all that. And they don't need a pass, because you need a pass to do all that. You got to have a permit to camp. So runners just said, hey, let's just run down there and run it back. And so a lot of people started doing that, running down to the river, running back out, which they call a rim to river. Some people call it a cowboy loop, especially if you go from South Kaibab to Bright Angel, or vice versa. I've done all this stuff. But I started off with a rim to rim to rim. And even though I was told not to do that, because I hadn't done my progression through the canyon trails, but I, like most, that I'm a runner. I'm in shape. I know how to do this stuff. And although I did pretty well, the people I was with didn't. And they were even more experienced than I was. So the canyon can be a very difficult adventure for a lot of people. So where are we going with this? Well, what we're doing is I want to explain to you what this R5 thing is all about. So an R3, which is rim to rim to rim, which a lot of people made popular in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. And then some genius got the idea to double that. And that's where I may have made a mistake here in my 6 crossings. To double that, which they call it an R5. And when I first started thinking, well, wouldn't that be an R6? Well, you're only going to 5 rims. Okay. And so it's an R5, but you're only crossing the river 4 times, so not 6. But that's okay. It's still what I first started up until a year ago, call it double, because my friend who has taught me much about the Grand Canyon, I want to say 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, he first did a double. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. Wonder how you got to be able to do that. And I was probably where most people are today with what I'm doing, going, how do you do that? That's got to be crazy. And it is. I'm not saying it's not. I mean, look, I've interviewed people that have done it. They're more fit than I am. They're younger than I am, maybe half my age. And they can do it in, 20, 30 hours. My goal is around 40 hours or so. But I don't really care about any of that. What I do care about is just doing it and enjoying it and training for it. To me, the training is so important because it's about health. That's why I'm doing all this stuff. I'm not doing all this stuff to just, thump my chest. I'm doing this stuff to make a point about health. It's funny. I did a post last weekend after I had a really good workout, which was my post Grand Canyon workout, which usually is not that hard, but this one turned into a good grind. And I posted about it, and I had some fun with it with a friend of mine. I go, well, I'm going to set the post 62-year-old R5 record. Hey, as far as I know, I don't know any others, but I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure they're out there, and that's fine. But it's the whole idea of just having a little bit of fun with it and doing something that's enjoyable. But the journey, which is why I call the topic today, my journey. The journey is about health, because I can't do this if I'm not healthy. And that means physical and mental health. If I'm not feeling right about what I'm doing, this is not going down. It's not. Now, so that's a big part of this. A big part of this has been the training, has been the year that I've had with a lot of friends, taking many, many new people down into the canyon. I had one bad experience taking somebody into the canyon for a double R3 that didn't end well because it was hot. And it's a big deal. Going at night, scary for a lot of people. Scary. And I embrace the night because I train for the night. In this adventure here, this R5 that's coming up, it's kind of cool because just before this show, I actually was able to continue to nail down my schedule. Because as I look at my calendar here, we're planning this. Oops, here we go. My calendar lost the pin. We're planning this for either the weekend of October the 29th or November the 5th. So I've got a 2-week window where I'm trying to get this all nailed down. One reason I'm doing that is to avoid some big crowd, even though I don't really care. But the weekend before that is really 2 weeks before that, jam-packed weekend, closing weekend, tons of people. I've done adventures on that weekend, crazy. The weekend after that can be very busy as well. A lot of people are scheduled, and so I'm just trying to give myself the best opportunity for logistics, parking, because it is the Grand Canyon. On the top, it's still a national park. At the bottom, it's the wilderness. And when I go, there's still going to be plenty of people, believe me. But I'm also looking at weather conditions. So as of right now, we're looking at that kind of 2-week window in there. But I have learned my lesson. Many years ago, not many, CBG, to be 3 years now. 3 years ago, I did, was it 3 years ago? It might have been 2 now. 2 years ago, I did a mountain in California called San Jacinto. Mount San Jacinto, known as, we call it cactus to clouds to cactus. Many just call it cactus to clouds because it starts at the museum at the Palm Springs Museum, which is about a couple hundred feet elevation, and it goes to over 10,500 feet up in the air. Boom, boom. And I waited because we had a lot of snow that year. Like I said, 2 or 3 years ago, a lot of snow, and I waited till June, second week of June. Oh, what a disaster. Too hot at the bottom, still a lot of snow at the top. My fitness was off. I was just a lot of dumb things. So my coach at the time said, next time you just put on a counter and go. Just put on a counter and go. And give yourself just a tight window. Because the more you put things off, just dumb things happen with your fitness, your health. Everything can be off because you allow it. See, what we don't want to do, like anything else, is put our calendar in the hands of somebody else. Hold that thought. We're going to come right back with some more crazy information about my journey to R5 at the Grand Canyon. And we are back. And the point of all that is when you want to do something epic, when you want to do a great adventure, put it on a calendar and you figure it out. Now, what happens at the Grand Canyon or in a lot of other places too, if people are coming from far away, like there are many people who come from back east, they put it on their calendar. I remember a couple of years ago, a lot of people come in on Thanksgiving, and there was a blizzard at the Grand Canyon. So there's so much for hiking and enjoying your weekend, right? No power. The stores went out. It was crazy time. And but if you don't put it on the calendar, chances are it won't get done. So you got to put it on a calendar. So before I forget, my journey to R5. So really, if you think about it, R5 is you start at the South Rim for me. I go to the North Rim, cross the Colorado River. I come back from the North Rim to the South Rim. I cross the Colorado River. Get it? I go back to the North Rim. Get it? Cross the Colorado River. And I come back to the South Rim, cross the Colorado. So it's only four. It's only four crossings of the Colorado River. So I was doing things in haste. But it's four crossings, 5 rims. The way I'm going to do it, it's going to be about 86 miles plus. I try to keep it as tight as I can. 86 miles. And I'm excited about that because I've been training to do it up one of the steepest trails. Mainly to avoid a lot of extra hiking up Bright Angel. I mean, we're talking about potentially 6 to 12 more miles. And, in the scheme of things, it doesn't seem like a lot, but I feel good enough that going up South Kaibab is going to make for better and greater adventure. And so that's why I decided to do it. And that's what my training is all about. And so now it's just a matter of making all that work. And we're going to go into some of all that right now. But The point is, put your mark on the board. Put it on your calendar. What do you want to do? When do you want to do it by? And then you can start looking at, okay, what do I need to be? What am I willing to do? Do I need to lose weight? Do I need to get in shape for this thing? You know, is it a job, a relationship thing? I don't know what it might be for you. So if it's a nutrition thing, you need to work on your nutrition. I've done a lot of work with my nutrition this last year, a lot. Every time I go to the Grand Canyon, I'm trying something new. Some things have been horrible. I mean, last year in October, I got sick. I threw that out, you know, trying different things all the time to figure out what works. In my training, because I train in a lot of heat in the summer and do long workouts so that I can figure things out. You don't want to figure things out in the middle of an adventure. That's a disaster. Some people do. I mean, I'm not saying I've never tried something new on an adventure, but boy, I tell you what, you need to be careful because that's disasters waiting to happen. So yeah, so I've spent the last really couple years honing in on this, from a thought to the actual planning to the date to the nutrition. Another phone call I just had prior to this was a nutrition company. I've been using their product now for going on 2 months and have been very happy with what I'm doing. Super happy. And they were glad for the feedback. Not as glad as I am that it works. It doesn't affect my stomach. I'm getting everything that I'm asking from it because I'm pretty dialed in nutritionally. You know, many of you may not know my background, but I am an exercise physiologist, which means I study movement. I study exercise. I study health. And I use myself as a guinea pig many times to see how things work. And I, not that I take that same product and push it on somebody else, but I take that same procedure and have somebody go through it. So where I'm experimenting, I may have somebody else experiment. They may not want anything to do with what I'm doing as far as nutrition, but by going through the process of experimenting and trying things out. And it's not just when you're an endurance athlete, I want everybody to understand this is very important. It's one thing to take something when you're fresh as a daisy and cool as a cucumber, put it in your stomach. Generally never ever feel anything bad about that. But when you're hot and heavy into something for 8-10 hours and it's hot, miserable, or cold, or whatever it might be, that's going to have a completely different effect on your brain and your stomach. And let me tell you something. When your stomach goes in a big adventure, you're in deep doo-doo. You're in trouble. So that's why I do all these experiments, try different things to help different people. So am I willing to work on my nutrition? Okay. How about this? Am I willing to work on my strength? Now, this is a tough one for many endurance athletes. Now, I happen to be a strength athlete. So many years ago when I started, I was doing competitive lifting, lifting weights. I may not look like it today, but I could do pretty well. But over time, as I've experimented with different things, trying different events, activities, competitions, I just like to compete. And so when I found this, I was like, wow, how can I compete at this? And it became a competition with myself. And then R5 popped up, or R3 popped up, or heck, when I first started, I may have told this story before, but I was doing not a lecture, but I was doing a talk at a client of mine's house, and she had gathered up. It was a women's group. She had gathered up probably about 15 or 20 of her friends to hear me speak about health. Okay. And so here I was talking about health, and I mentioned that I was going to do the Grand Canyon in this group. Because I was excited about it. I was brand new. This would have been 8 years ago now. 8 years ago. So I think I was 54 years old. And I said, well, this is what I'm going to do. Well, afterwards, after I gave the talk and everybody's all buzzing around and asking me questions, a lady came up to me and said, well, have you done rim to rim yet? I said, what are you talking about? Well, have you gone rim to rim? I said, no. Have you gotten rim to river? I honestly, between me and you, I didn't even know what she was talking about. All I cared about was going all the way across and all the way back, rim to rim to rim. That's what I thought I was going to do. And so I said, no, I'm doing this. She goes, well, this is exactly how she said it. Well, you can't do that. And my friend was standing there. I go, what do you mean I can't do it? She goes, well, you have to do these other things first. I said, no. I go, I've run a marathon before. I can do this. And she, honestly, she knew more than I knew. And I was just pretty thick-headed. So either way, I argued with her for a few minutes in a fun way and said, well, when I do it, I'll let you know. And so I think the following year we went because we were still working on all this. Either way, I think it was a year later we did it. Or maybe it was, no. I did a 50 miler. So yeah, it was that fall. And I went with my daughter and her husband. And afterwards I got back and I texted my friend. And I said, hey, Carrie, do you have so-and-so's phone number? She goes, yeah, why? I want you to send her a message. Tell her I did it. And it was pretty cool. I never heard back from him, but that's okay. It didn't matter. But at that point, I began my journey of learning how to best do this doggone thing. Because it is a monster if you let it be a monster. It's an absolute joy if you embrace it and don't try to compete with the canyon. Enjoy the canyon. Don't compete with the canyon. The canyon never loses. Quote me. The canyon never loses. So each time I go there, I just learn new things, learn how to eat, learn how to train better, learn all these different things. So again, was I willing to work on my nutrition? Yes. Was I willing to work on my strength? Yes, which a lot of people aren't willing to do. And I'm constantly working on new exercises, tweaking things, learning, throwing stuff out, bringing things in, dialing in movements, things that I need to be better at if I want to be better at doing the Grand Canyon. Being very specific to what I'm trying to do. And that's the key. A lot of runners aren't. And they're a heck of a lot better runners than I ever will be. But when it comes to strength training, they can't hold a candle to me. Which means that's become my secret weapon. It would be theirs if they embraced it, but they're never going to embrace it because they don't need to. You know, if they break down, they break down. I had somebody this week reach out. Hey, does anybody know how to deal with this injury? What do you do? More of a mindset thing. And I just kind of backed off and just kind of watched because they were already allowing the mindset of, well, I'll just wait till this thing heals like it normally would, 3 months from now, and then I'll start back up and work my, because that's my sweet spot. Why? I've had injuries which I was back on the trail in a week. You see, I understand that part of it really well. The strength, the conditioning. So that's my area of expertise. So I am willing to spend the appropriate amount of time to make sure that this body is ready for whatever adventure I'm in. Are you willing to do the same thing? I mean, I run into people all the time that they're going to do a rim to rim, or they want to do rim to rim to rim, or however, whether they're camping or not. I don't really care. But if they're not physically able to do that, that can be really bad and dangerous. So are you willing to do the conditioning work? You know, I had a person that was going to come with me on this trip in September. And I told her, I said, I need you to be at this level by this date, which is already passed. But I already aborted this thing a while ago. So when I talked 2 weeks ago, I said, what do you think? She goes, I don't think I'm able to do it. Okay, good. I don't think you will either, because if you can't put the time in, you are an accident waiting to happen. If you put the time in, you are on the verge of creating some amazing memories. But you got to stay focused. And that's what the Canyon really teaches you. Focus. You got to stay focused on the prize. And if the prize is a double crossing, and you're willing to get stronger, and you're willing to learn how to eat, take care of yourself, and have the right foods with you, okay? And you're not willing to spend extra time with your buddies out there partying and have a good time. You're not willing to just do goofy things that are going to take away from your training. And you're not willing to take crazy risks. I'm a risk taker, but take crazy risks in your training. You don't need to. You don't need to. And when you're able to go through all those questions, you are on the verge of a great and epic adventure. And so this year, with everything happening, still in the middle of COVID, but was able to schedule some really nice hikes at the beginning of the year, was able to go to the Grand Canyon in March in the snow. And I picked that date especially because I wanted to train myself to go in the snow, because I didn't know at the end of the year would my date require me to walk in the snow and deal with it. I couldn't guarantee that. So what did I do? I practiced walking. And so I'm ready for anything. I'm gone. And people are going to say, oh, be careful, you're going in the snow. I already did that. They already got freaked out about me doing that. And I did it at night. And there was 2 feet of snow on the ground at the North Rim. So sure, I'm concerned, but I'm not freaked out about it if it happens again. That's the whole idea with preparation, training, looking at your adventure, whatever you're going to do. Like I said, whether it's job, relation, doesn't matter. Are you doing what you need to be doing and not doing what you don't need to be doing? And it's so important that we look at what we're doing like that. And especially when it's an epic adventure, like the Grand Canyon, going into the wilderness, so the nutrition, the strength, the planning, I'm looking at doing 40 plus hours. So I've had to tweak things around. Well, let's see, if I start at noon and I'm doing this, I'll finish here, I'll finish there. Now, if it was just me, I would probably finish early in the morning. But if I'm trying to coordinate with a team, a ride, and all that stuff, it's probably better to kind of move things around so that I have better access to getting help if I need it. And so that's one of the things that I've been doing here the last few weeks, tweaking my schedule, making sure that I get all my supplies. I've been ordering supplies that I may need. I've been talking to people that may want to be a part of it, knowing that I am ultimately responsible for my adventure. Because when you put it in the hands of a partner or a team, and I'm a big teammate guy. But sometimes you got to break away. Sometimes Michael Jackson can't be part of the Jackson 5. Am I making myself clear? Sometimes you just do what you do and then you come back. Sometimes you do what you do and you come back. Sometimes you wait and you wait for the team to train and get better and learn and work with each other and learn to love each other and trust each other. And that makes for an amazing experience. See, my experience has to become something that I cherish in here. Because if I'm going on my great adventure thinking when I come back that everybody's going to want to hear about it, I'm dreaming. Now, they may want to hear about it for a day or two. But you know what? After that, it's my memory right here. I have to be okay with that. Because if I keep telling my story, people are going to get bored and think I'm crazy. Because it doesn't mean that much to them. If they care about me, it means, and they know it means to me, cool. But for most of it, that's not what this is about. This is about something that's going to make you feel good. And if you go with a team, the team's going to feel good because you're going to magnify the experience that you're going through. You're going to magnify that experience. And that's huge. And we just have to continue to do that kind of stuff in our planning. So if your plan is a team, it requires a lot more flexibility, a lot more work. And so what I had to do is tweak things so I can adjust for my team. I can also adjust the other way too. I have to be willing to do that. I have to look at times and places to meet, who's bringing my food, who's doing this, who's doing that. You know, big deal. It's a big deal. It's a lot goes into an epic adventure. It really does. That's why I kind of love when I see some posts in some of my groups. Hey, what do you guys think of this? And they show their whole backpack. And I'm thinking, ugh, I just leave it alone because all I'm doing is adding fuel to the fire. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, talk about insecurity. I mean, I'm glad they're asking, but they're getting all kind of answers. And some of the answers aren't the best, but they're laying out all their stuff and saying, well, that's no good and this is good. Why do you need? So it's crazy. Or their food or their schedule. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Maybe. But doesn't that happen to everybody when it's kind of your first time? You kind of learn. You kind of learn that, you know, that's the whole idea of doing things that are epic. Number one, you get bragging rights. I get to be the over 62 bragging rights until the next guy kicks my butt. But it doesn't matter. I did it. Okay? And you get to do the same thing. Whether it's that half marathon, that 5K, that 10K, you know, got the new job because you took a shot. Whatever you did. Went on a date with somebody new because you took a shot. Because you were willing to speak up. Get it? So what are you willing to do? I want to finish because I think this is really important with my 5 questions for you. I want you to ask these things whenever something comes up that you want in your life. Do I really want it? You might want to ask what you really want too. When do I want it by? Put a timeline. That's a hard one for me sometimes to learn. When do you want it by? Number 3, why is it a must for me? That's that old Simon Sinek why thing. Gotta have a why. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It's hard. And what am I willing to do to achieve this goal? What am I willing to do? Are you willing to move? Spend money, time, training, eat better, lose weight? I don't know. It's your deal. And then what are you willing not to do? That might be the most important thing of all. What are you willing not to do? All right, guys. This is Coach Arnie. I love being able to share my adventures with you. It's going to be a fun journey. Well, we'll probably talk again. I'm going to be bringing some guests on about adventures and just life. And I hope that we can share with you and teach you and guide you with wisdom and love, and to help you in whatever you choose to do. And if you ever have a question about your adventure and maybe I can help you, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can email me, you can call me, and you can Google me, and I will I'll answer your question as best I can and give you my wisdom and my guidance as best I can as well. All right, guys, this is Coach Arnie with the maiden voyage of the new epic adventure. Health, Love, and Life show. And again, thank you for tuning in. We look forward to many more great shows. And don't forget, you could, like I said, call me or shoot me an email, and we'd love to talk to you. All right, guys, this is Coach Arnie, and talk to you next week or next time.